Hey, this is Christian Roldan.
And Jordan Morris from the Seattle Sounders Football Club.
And you're listening to
This is Nos Odietis. This episode of Nos Odietis is sponsored by Full Pull Wines, a Seattle-based wine retailer and proud sponsor of Nos Odietis since 2011. Full Pull was founded in 2009, is based in Seattle, and is owned and operated by longtime Sounders supporters. They offer the best boutique wines of the world to members of their mailing list, with special focus on their home, the Pacific Northwest.
Here we go. Come on! Hey, O'Shan! Let's go!
A sideline fry! The Seattle Sounders have done it! MLS Cup winners!
Here comes Rangers through the middle to crown it for Seattle! And now they truly can start the celebrations. It's the Sounders MLS Cup.
Nicola Dero leaves absolutely no doubt! The Sounders rule the region!
Seattle Sounders is going good!
They've scored! They've scored! Finally!
This feels fucking awesome.
This is a tiny dog.
Is that what you young people call twerking?
That podcast says cheated!
We want to win. This is the Seattle Sounders, bro.
Welcome back to another episode of Nos Odietis, sponsored by Full Pull Wines. I am Jeremiah O'Shan. Joining me today is Trebor Tracy of Angels on Parade. They are an LAFC and I guess Angel City and what's OCSC? Is that right?
Yes.
OCSC.
Orange County SC, yeah.
Yeah. Are the other? So obviously we've talked to Angels on Parade many times, always with Alicia though. So this is Trevor's first time on the show. Welcome to the show, Trebor.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you reaching out. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So first off, tell us how things are going in the independent life of Angels on Parade.
It's going good. Last year was our first year independent, and it was definitely a learning season, I would say. A lot of it was just kind of building the foundation and just making sure everything ran as smooth as possible, given what had happened. And this season is a lot more getting our hands dirty and making sure we kind of expand in terms of the content we provide. So a lot of exciting things happening for 2024.
Cool. Well, it's always good to see sites like this surviving and hopefully thriving. But again, thank you for doing this. Obviously, we are talking about the season opener for both teams, which is on Saturday at 1:30. It's on Fox, obviously, as well as MLS Season Pass. What is the mood around LAFC right now?
They are very much trying to get back to having fun with soccer. I think everyone knows when it comes to LAFC, they are very much a team that wants to win it all and is very gung-ho and not quiet about their desire to win all the trophies. But I think after last season, all the opportunities they had coming up short, I think this year the focus has really been on getting back to enjoying your football. That's something we've heard throughout the preseason, and it's something Steve Trundle reiterated today in his press conference with the media, was just making sure they got back to having fun with soccer. So I think you're seeing a lot of players kind of lean into that and outwardly have looked like they are having more fun in training and are trying to enjoy the little moments a little bit more this season.
You bring that up, and last year was an interesting case study, and I think Sounders fans can maybe relate. But it was, in a lot of ways, a hugely successful season, right? You got to MLS Cup. You were competitive in the MLS regular season. You went to the Champions League final.
Yep.
You were competitive in Leagues Cup. It was, you set a record, I believe, for most games played. But yet at the end of the day, no silverware. And in fact, I think a lot of opposing fans, myself included, had some fun at the idea that LAFC repeatedly came up short in the biggest games of their season. Inside LAFC, what was the feeling like? Was it like, look, guys, we played the most games. Obviously, we had a successful year, or was it sort of I don't know. How would you describe it?
I think at first there was a little bit of the first one, after losing the Champions League, it was kind of just like, okay, we had a tough go of it, but
Right.
we know we're a good team. We know we'll bounce back. And then they did bounce back, but as you said, they had opportunity after opportunity. I will say, I think losing that U.S. Open Cup match to Galaxy really for me at least, kind of was the pivotal part of the season where
Mm,
the mood kind of switched to kind of that they lost a little bit of that arrogance where it was like very much
yeah.
like, okay, this may not be the season we think it's going to be. And but there was as much as they understood soccer is soccer, and with the way it is now, finals are, they are what they are. There was still a disappointment, very much so disappointment. They knowing they came away with 0 trophies, I think really hurt. Had they won one of those,
Sure, that totally changes things, right?
totally, exactly, totally changed. Even if it's like, some people may say whichever one is the least valuable to you, if they had won that one, it's a
Right.
totally different season. But it was still very much a successful season. I think they very much wanted to tell people that, this wasn't a failure in their eyes. This wasn't like we're going to hang our heads. This was just, it was a disappointment. We didn't get the silverware, but at the same time, we know we're a good club and we're going to bounce back.
And at the same time, the off season has been interesting because there's been a lot of change, and there's been mostly outgoing. There has been some we've had a couple more additions lately, but some really pivotal players in the franchise's history really
Mhm.
have left. Does it feel like it's the end of an era and that we're sort of starting LAFC 2.0 essentially?
I would say they are trying to quell that narrative within the
Okay.
club. But I think if you ask, the fans, if you kind of ask other media around it, I think, yeah, you're looking at it. You don't want to say necessarily a rebuild year because it's not like they're having to start from scratch, but it's
right.
very much like you said, a season, an off season where they saw a lot of players leave. They did have that flurry of signings about a couple weeks ago. They brought in some solid players, but they did have that core kind of initial first era of LAFC and that kind of monumental success leave. And so, yeah, I think there's very much a sense of, okay, this is the next step, and what does that look like?
Were you surprised at how much change there's been this offseason, or was this something that was always sort of expected?
Um, I think looking at the way the contract shaped up, you knew that this was very much a possibility. A lot of guys had their contracts running out around the same time.
Sure.
I think also, as we talked about, just the way the season ended last year, I think there's very much an added sense from players of, okay, if not now, then when would I make that
Mhm.
big move? And so I think you saw a lot of those guys kind of on the fringe, ready to make that leap. Whereas I think, again, with that success here, would they have stayed maybe one more year? Possibly, but I think this was always an offseason looked at where they were going to lose some players. I don't think anyone anticipated losing everyone the way they kind of have.
Right.
They're still very confident with the whole Vela situation. I'm sure we'll talk about that, um, but yeah, having lost so many was kind of a blow.
Well, that's a good transition into the Carlos Vela situation. Everyone sort of assumed, at least outside, it seemed pretty obvious that this was the end of the road
Mhm.
for Carlos Vela, and his option, or I don't know if he had an option. He wasn't re-signed immediately, and
Right.
sort of the narrative was, oh, if only LAC could bring him back. It's such a shame that they can't make room for him on the roster, and yet here they are sitting with what, 2 open DP spots.
Mhm.
Carlos Vela is unsigned. What's going on with him?
Well, like I said, there was a media conference today, and the latest is just that they are confident in their talks with Vela. They've maintained that both sides want to get a deal done. That
So they do want to
he
bring him back.
that's what they've said, that they,
Okay.
or at least that's what they've insinuated with their
Right.
negotiations. They haven't completely cut off ties. They are open in saying that they are negotiating with him. According to them, there is interest on his side in coming back. So at this moment, it's very much still in limbo. But as you said, I think for a lot of people, that chapter has closed. I think if he does come back, obviously he'll be welcomed back. It's not like a situation where, oh man, Vela's here. What are we going to do?
Right.
But I think for a lot of fans and a lot of people, they've kind of accepted the fact that it's time to move on. And so it's really interesting to hear the team still be adamant in their pursuit of him.
Interesting. And so is the assumption sort of that they'd love to bring him back as long as he's not a DP, or is it more complicated than that?
Um,
Like it's about roles. It's about
yeah, I think it's a little bit more. Well, I don't know if it's about roles. I've said that Vela's best season was that 2022 season when they won the MLS Cup, and he was more embracing the kind of, I don't want to say bench role, but kind of the veteran role where he wasn't as
It wasn't
involved.
everything didn't go through him.
Exactly. He was taking a seat back and letting other guys lead the team. And he seemed to enjoy that role, have fun in that role. So I don't think it's a role situation. I do think there's probably a little bit of what the money looks like, what kind of contract does he want versus what the team wants to give him. But we haven't heard anything, any rumors as to what exactly that would be.
So the other player that there's been a lot of chatter around is Denny Bwanga. I believe he himself has said that he would have been interested in a move overseas, and he sort of felt like, I've outperformed my contract and I want a new deal. Is the sense that he's happy that they've sort of sued that over? What's your sense of his status in the team at this point?
I think he's happy. He very much enjoys being in LA, playing for LAFC. He was very vocal about wanting to either take that next step and kind of get back to Europe or get a better contract here, which he did deserve. I mean, you look at the season he had,
Yeah.
a lot of
Amazing
times
season.
he carried the team. But I think for now, he's very much happy here. Whatever problems they had, they have soothed over. But I wouldn't be surprised if he has another season like he did last year, where he's the front runner on the team, leading it, kind of everything going through him and scoring loads of goals. If we're kind of back to this again next offseason, where it's like, okay, I want more. So
Right. Yeah. I mean, it is funny because it's the idea that a designated player can ever be on a good deal is like kind of a funny thing. But yeah, here he is. He's like outside the top 10 in terms of annual salary at least. And yeah, he seems to be on a really good deal, but it's also interesting, so I can't blame him. I mean, especially when he's got a teammate who was making a lot more than him, at least last year. But this is the funny world that we live in with MLS. And so what are your thoughts on the players they've brought in? The veteran they brought in was Edward Atuesta, who obviously is a very much a known quantity. And then the other players are very intriguing talents, but they are effectively still unproven.
I think it's very much in line with what LAFC has done historically with their signings. I think even when Atuesta was bought, right, he was an exciting, unproven talent that they were able to mold into one of the better midfielders in MLS at the time that he left. I think that's very much what this club enjoys doing. They love bringing in younger talent. I know their last couple big signings have been, Kalini, Bale, Hugo Lloris, older veteran legends of the game. But for the most part, this is a club that loves bringing in kind of that younger, exciting, yet something to prove in themselves, and just taking that and helping them reach their ceiling. So I think we'll see a lot of that. And it especially helps with having a head coach like Steve Cherundolo, because he's also proven to be someone that can very much mold young talent with his time throughout LAFC, not just as a head coach, but in his couple years as an assistant and running the lights for the club.
And what's your sense in terms of expectations this year? Does it feel like they expect to hit the ground running, or is there sort of a period where they feel like they need to figure themselves out?
The latter, very much the latter. Obviously, we can't take too much from preseason. They infamously looked terrible and lost every match in preseason 2022, and then went on to win the cup. But I think very much this looks like a team that is going to have growing pains. That is a team in a squad that is a lot of players that aren't used to playing with each other, a lot of new faces. I do think it's a really good test, match day one, to go against a team like the Seattle Sounders, not just a team that is going to be, that's a team that's going to be your conference rival, a team that's growing to be one of your main rivals. They're going to bring the energy. They are. This is a team you're likely going to see down the road. So I think it's a great first test to get hit in the mouth and see how they react.
You bring up a good point, and you mentioned the Sounders as rivals. I assume it's Galaxy and then, of course, everyone else. Sort of like how it's the Timbers and everyone else for the Sounders. But where do the Sounders sit in terms of antipathy or a rivalry hierarchy among LAFC fans, if not necessarily the organization itself?
I think they're number two.
Okay.
I think that that's safe to say now, especially, given last season and meeting again. And
Yeah.
this is a team that they've not only met a lot of, I mean, this is, the Sounders were the ones that opened up their inaugural season,
Oh, yes.
I mean, I believe we opened up the season, the inaugural season. You were the first away match for the club, I believe.
Yeah, it was the season
match
opener
ever.
in
Yeah.
2018, right?
Yeah, and then it was the first home opener.
home game, and that was
Yep.
the Laurent Courtois 93rd minute winner or whatever, right?
Yep. And every match from the start has been physical and important. And just the last few years, having met the Sounders again in the postseason and in all these tournaments,
Yeah.
there's very much a sense of, I don't think, there's never going to be another team that reaches kind of the level of
Right.
rivalry hatred of the Galaxy, of course. But I do think that the Sounders are number two in line in terms of teams that fans know, like, this game matters.
Okay.
Like, you have to win this game, if nothing else, to show that we can hang with, the Western Conference's best down the stretch.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear. That's it's always fun to hear that stuff.
Mhm.
So I'm going to be going to my first trip to LAFC this
Okay.
week.
Oh,
what
okay.
what kind of advice do you have in terms of, like, I've been to LA many times,
Mhm.
but I don't know. I don't know. I actually don't know downtown that well. What would you say? Anything you would suggest that a visiting Seattleite know about visiting LA, presumably, downtown, which is relatively close to where the stadium is, and specifically getting into anything they need to make sure to do when they're at the stadium?
Oh man.
I kind of blindsided you with this.
Yeah, well, I mean, just there's so much to do. I think that's also
I know.
the problem, right?
What are you
so much
going to do in LA?
Everything is great in downtown. I'll just say, like, for the match specifically, you definitely just want to take in the atmosphere. I think
Yeah.
a lot of whether you love it or hate it, a lot of people hear so much about the atmosphere of BMO, of the 3252
Yeah.
coming into the MLS and just kind of establishing themselves as one of the quote unquote better fan bases. But I would just recommend taking it all in, because it does start from the moment they get in the stadium, which is usually about an hour before kickoff, and they go nonstop. They set the tone. It is an event. It is an event. Just take it all in, enjoy it. But I would really recommend, after the match, you got to get the bacon wrapped hot dogs. That's like a must for every visitor.
Is that like a cart outside?
Yes, there's several carts. There's hundreds of carts outside, thankfully.
Doing bacon wrapped hot dogs.
They are the best. They're just It's something so comforting about a bacon wrapped hot dog after an LA sporting event. It's either blissful when you win or, consoling when you lose.
Yeah.
But it's something I recommend everybody that visits LA experience.
Okay, that's a good one, because I now feel like I remember it being suggested that this was sort of the LA dog.
It is. I know, Dodger dogs like to say that they're kind of like the LA dog, but
I know, but that's like
that's
kind of
it's like a stadium specific, but like very much the LA experience for sporting events is after the match, getting that bacon wrapped hot dog. It used to be like $4 or $5,
Of course. And the same thing happened.
But it's still worth it. Very much still worth it. Very much the cheapest kind of meal you'll get in the area on a match day.
I might have to hit that up. All right. And then is there any taqueria downtown that you would suggest that is like a must hit?
Ooh, downtown.
I know. That's the thing. I know there's like a million.
Well,
probably...
Grand Central Station has a lot. That's in the area.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah. I know. And that's the market.
The market, yeah. They have
I know
couple really good taquerias there.
Okay.
That are really excellent.
So if I go there, if
you go there, you will find great food.
Right. Okay.
Literally
so that was sort of my question: is that, am I selling myself short if I go there?
No,
or is
you're
that
not
actually
at all.
like
not at all. That's a spot. Yeah, that is one of the better downtown spots in terms of getting food, whether it be tacos or it's really popular for breakfast because they have egg slut, which is really good as well.
Nice.
But yeah. You wouldn't be
Okay.
selling yourself short. You'd be making the right move.
Okay, good. That's what I like to hear. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, Trevor.
Oh yeah, no
Are
problem.
you going to be
Thank
out
you
at
for
the
having
game?
me. I am.
All
That's
right,
why I'm
well,
excited to hear you'll be there. I'll see you for sure.
Yeah. No, this is the first time I'm making a goal this year of traveling to more games. The only places I've been up till now are San Jose, Portland, and Vancouver, and then Toronto. But that's
Okay.
kind of a different category. Well, yeah, I guess I've done more traveling than that, but within MLS, those are the stadiums I visited, and I'm hoping to tick off a few more. LAFC has always been on that list. May try to get out to is it StubHub? Is that what they're calling it now? What are they calling
the Galaxy one?
Yeah, Carson.
No, it's
Dignity Health. Yes,
Yeah.
it's changed names so many times.
Dignity Health Sports Park now.
Yeah. So might try to get there. We'll see what else
That's
you
also
get
a good
others.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah. So well, thank you so much for doing this, Trevor. Where can people read you? Where can people follow you?
I am the managing editor over at Angels on Parade. That's where you can read anything and everything from me. I'm also on X, Twitter, at Trebor Tracy, and that's where you'll find my ramblings on all things soccer. So
awesome. Well, thank you for doing this, and
thanks for having me.
And best of luck. Well, the rest of the season, maybe not
Saturday. Yeah,
maybe
I
not
understand.
All right. I'm Jeremiah Shan. This is No Sadietes. Thank you to our sponsors, Football Wines, and we will catch you next time.
We love you. Let's win another one.